We human beings are energy junkies. We have become overwhelmingly dependent as a society on oil, a non-renewable energy resource. Sometimes people still speak of peak oil as if it were a theory, but supergiant large oil fields that supply about half of world production, one after another, are going into decline. Oil has become absolutely central to modern economies. So when global oil production reaches its maximum and goes into decline, this is not going to be a small problem. It means a historic change in the direction of modern societies.
When I talk to people about peak oil, most of them think I'm just another apocalyptic doomsdayer. And then when I talk about the solutions to peak oil and talk about gardening and getting back to producing our food, people call me a hippie or, you know, like, yeah. A permablitz is basically a permaculture-based garden makeover where people come together to share knowledge and skills around food production.
Peak oil is a geological peak. It's not just a problem of not drilling enough wells or not throwing enough money at the problem. When the first well is sunk into an oil field, it's under pressure. The oil rushes out. It's very easy to extract. As time goes on, the pressure declines. We have to start pumping the oil. And beyond a certain point, it is physically impossible to continue increasing the rate of extraction. So there's a natural kind of bell-shaped curve of recovery for any given oil field, and that's peak oil.
Excuse me, everybody. We're about to start another workshop just over here.
That might be a little fat hen.
Yeah.
That's more of a summer green. Like, so what we're seeing here is, yeah, I think this tastes better than just about any other onion garlicky thing.
I first heard about peak oil through Adam. He was holding a workshop at a conference. And yeah, I didn't understand it. Like, it was so technical. I kind of just went, oh yeah, that sounds a bit freaky and quite interesting. I started learning a bit more about peak oil and just made the connections between peak oil and food security here.
Our modern industrial food system uses oil at virtually every stage along the way. From seeding with giant tractors, to irrigation and plowing, to harvesting, to processing food, to distributing food. For about every calorie of food energy that we produce, we use approximately 10 calories of fossil fuel energy in its production. Now, when the peak of oil production is passed, it's theoretically possible for us to produce just as much food, but there's a transition that's necessary. You can't just go from chemical farming to organic farming in 1 year and hope to have anything like the same yields. Global food production will decline substantially. I think an important way that individuals can help in the post-peak transition is just through backyard gardening. And if we could plow up a few golf courses and maybe even a few city streets, it wouldn't be a bad idea.
We're just in the process of building a no-dig garden. By putting the wet newspaper on top of your grass level, it actually prevents the grass from growing through into your garden bed. It'll also break down and become organic matter for the soil, and then we're just going to build our layers on top of that.
I guess the idea with permablitzers and growing food at home supplemented with food co-ops and farmers markets to slowly be able to wean ourselves off the industrial agriculture system and the shipping of food back and forth across the world, which requires so much fossil fuels.
We really should have been preparing for this moment for the past 20 years, because that's the kind of time it takes to fundamentally change the energy infrastructure of a modern society. Peak oil is something we've been observing for decades. And this happened first with the United States back in 1970. And since then, major oil-producing countries have reached their national peaks and gone into decline. Globally, oil production will probably peak right around 2010. So, in a sense, we're living on borrowed time.
What can I do?
Level the ground.
We're building a little hothouse for propagating seedlings.
You might need some.
What kind of seedlings are you going to plant?
Everything that's in season: tomatoes and chilies and eggplants and lettuces and spring onions and beetroot. And you name it. Flowers, if you like.
I like it. So you're going to actually try and engineer it.
My greatest source of hope in all of this is from young people, wherever I travel, whether it's Europe or North America or Australia, who are seeing the information about peak oil and almost immediately gravitating to really the most sensible responses imaginable, learning about things like permaculture and throwing themselves into gardening, and really spontaneously and very quickly creating a whole new kind of post-peak culture.
I believe in the contribution I'm making and my friends and community are making. I feel like it's really important to start from the grassroots on these sorts of issues, because the people who are profiting from the current structure of society aren't going to be the ones who are going to make a lead in preparing for peak oil. So yeah, I think a community grassroots response is where most of that change is going to happen. But I think at the same time, it does need to happen from the top. And we do need to be lobbying politicians and bigger organisations to be looking at ways that they can enforce some sorts of changes.
Thanks for having us. See you, Dominica. Thanks for your help.
Our society is likely to go through some very dramatic changes, and you could say, well, is one person gardening going to make a difference? Well, of course not. But if you have millions of people gardening, that makes an enormous difference. And that's exactly what could happen.